In his essay, Understanding Media, published in 1964, Canadian philosopher McLuhan described the car as, quote, an extension of man. So I want to build on that metaphor in this video and look at our relationships with cars. I grew up in an area where clearly if you didn't have a car, you're stuck. You can't work, you can't socialize. Driving in the countryside also meant that I didn't lose too much time in traffic, so for me the car is synonymous with freedom. Now that connection between cars and freedom is super common. Almost every car ad capitalizes on that notion of freedom, driving freely in the desert, driving freely along the coast, driving freely in the city centers, which is something that never happens, let's be honest. This is false advertising. What's clear there is that we can apply different meanings and functions to the car. As a social scientist, I'm obsessed with understanding the meaning we attach to people, institutions, and things. And I feel like the car says so much about who we are as individuals, but also as a society. So let's uncover it. Let's uncover us. We'll have 3 parts in this video, 3 words: commodity, safety, and intimacy. Let's start with commodity. The car is a commodity. McLuhan said that it is an extension of man. Men, in fact, are likely to see the car through a sort of transhumanist lens. For those of you who don't know, transhumanism is a philosophy and movement that explores ways to enhance human capabilities through technology, science, and innovation, pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human, like improving our physical and mental abilities, extending lifespans, and even merging with AI. Think of it as humanity's quest to evolve beyond our natural limits using tools like genetics, engineering, robotics, and other futuristic tech. In the case of the car, well, the car and the driver become one. 1 + 1 = 2 turns into 1 + 1 = 1. The car driver becomes its own thing, a combination of the driver's skills and choices and the technologies of the car. That's also why men are much more likely to change features of the car to make it theirs. Women, on the other hand, have a more organizational approach of the car. They are more interested in convenience and space, like where drinks can be placed or what sort of storage they can work with. That is because women have historically disproportionately used the car to do domestic chores like running errands. And still today, if you pay attention to the way female vloggers and podcasters use the car, you'll notice that those patterns haven't really changed. The car is a place where women get to organize their stuff and show their personality through little decorations here and there. So men show their personality by changing the functionalities of the car, by adding options, sports mode, softwares, etc. Women, on the other hand, show their personality by organizing space in a specific way. Now, before you comment, I want to clarify that these are social trends. If you're a woman or a man and don't recognize yourself in those patterns, it's fine. Every rule has its exceptions, and you might be one of them. Social trends just help us better understand how we work on a societal level. It's useful for policymakers, for activists, for educators, for advertisers, and for people like me, I guess. Okay, so far we talked about gender differences in the way we use the car, the commodity of the car, but I also want to look at differences between rich and poor people. The car is clearly a statement of your social status. It signals one's social class. And it's not just an adult thing. Kids also learn it very quickly. As kids, we already establish social hierarchies based on what our parents' cars are. I remember asking my dad not to park on the tennis club parking lot because he had an old car, and I thought it made us look very poor in front of all the middle-class kids. I remember getting quite anxious and emotional if he didn't park elsewhere. It must have been quite tough as a parent to see your kid understanding those dynamics already. But now things are different. I don't feel anxious sharing this anecdote with you. Quite the contrary, my perspective on this has changed. I share this anecdote because, as a social being, I feel like I can get something from it. Validation or respect. My dad's old car makes me feel proud. It makes me feel superior, even. It signals to you, the audience, that I didn't come from a place of privilege. My dad drove an old car, and now I'm on YouTube making it. We all do that, to be honest. You know, we take a fact or an anecdote that used to make us feel quite bad and turn it to our advantage. In that case, my dad's old car turned into a symbol of class mobility.
We're very working class.
Be honest.
I am being honest.
What car did your dad drive you to school in?
So my dad did...
No, one answer.
It's not a simple answer
What
because...
car did get your dad to drive
It
you to school
depends.
in? No.
Okay,
What
in the
car?
80s,
What?
my dad had a Rolls Royce.
Thank you.
In fact, in a society that encourages class mobility, social mobility, there's an expectation that as you grow older, you get bigger and better cars. The car is a representation of class mobility. Every upgrade signals a new, better standard of living. In France, my country, the typical I just secured a permanent contract after college car is this one. I know so many young men who have this car, and if you do decently in life, you might get an Audi in your late 30s or 40s. And when you reach retirement, you want to be able to afford a Mercedes. I would say that is the French middle class, upper class experience. A downgrade would be the worst. But if you manage to show a consistent improvement throughout your life, and also an upgrade from your parents' car, you're mega validated. You have won at life. Good job. Okay, so we've talked about car as a commodity, saying something about gender and class. Now I want to move on to the second part, safety. Historically, women tend to go towards smaller cars. The Mini, for example, is a status statement for women, despite being a super small vehicle. Men, on the other hand, tend to favor longer and bigger cars. That was the rule since the invention of the car, but things are changing a bit. More and more women are choosing bigger cars. When I was researching, I found this TikTok niche dedicated to mom SUVs. Apparently, the mom white SUV is a bit of a trend, but some moms are actually choosing the black SUVs instead. They are not like the other moms, you see? So my question is very simple. Regardless of your gender, would you say that you are a white SUV mom or a black SUV mom? Are you a clean girl mom or a sad girl mom? I think I would say I'm a black SUV mom. The SUV or bigger cars in general provide space, that's for sure, but they also provide safety. Safety is often invoked when people explain why they want to buy an SUV. The reason for it is very simple. A bigger car has the advantage in crashes, so you have the safety to drive very poorly, and if you end up doing something wrong, it's likely that the other vehicle will be damaged. It's Not Just Bikes made a brilliant video about it. What I got from that video is that SUV drivers are choosing their safety at the cost of other people's safety, cyclists, pedestrians, kids. And I'll also remember that study which profiled SUV drivers in comparison to other drivers, and it looks like SUVs are often driven by assholes.
10 years ago, a baby-faced Mark Rober put plastic animals on the side of the road to see which ones were most likely to get hit. He found that some drivers would purposefully swerve to run over the animals. 89% of those people who tried to murder animals were driving SUVs. The market research is correct. These people are assholes.
I love science. As women, our safety is a daily concern. It's the same thing for NBs, for trans people, for gay people, for kids, for old people, for people with special needs, same for people of color, basically any vulnerable group. I think that's why this trend of women getting bigger cars is not surprising to me. It's not that society has become less safe, but rather that women are more aware of the danger that they might face. We see it in the news, we learn about it on social media, and we more openly share our experiences with our friends. When Sarah Everett disappeared while walking along a busy road and was later found dead, this Instagram post, quote, "Text me when you get home," went viral. It revealed to the world the little strategies that women do to stay safe. So I'll do a little parenthesis, but if you're a guy watching this, 50% of my audience identify as male, so I know you're watching. You can adopt certain behaviors when you go out with a girl or with girlfriends. You can ask them if they need someone to walk back home with, if they need a taxi. You can keep your phone turned on for updates and ask for a message when they get back home.
If someone attacks me, I'm not going to go phone.
I think that's what girls have to think about all the time.
Yeah.
Am I right, ladies?
End of the parenthesis. The taxi is often the safest option. No one can enter it, it's comfortable, it goes fast, it can be locked. It's the safest option, but it's also very pricey. I refuse to take the taxi home after a night out many times to save money, but I know some working class female friends who are traumatized and they can't imagine taking public transports late at night, even if that means spending the equivalent of 2 hours of work. Safety is pricey, and still, there have been many cases of taxi drivers harassing or assaulting women coming back from a night out. My fellow French activist Anna Toumazov has been super vocal about it, and recently Uber France updated its app to include a female driver option. I think it's a positive thing, but it makes me angry that we have to do that. So yeah, for women, the car has a special significance when it comes to safety. Still in the topic of safety, Let's talk about this. The cybertruck is, for me, the equivalent of tech libertarians meets survivalists. The cybertruck will keep you safe from other cars, an alien invasion, the apocalypse, aggressive woke teenagers, migrants taking over your country, the government, and also a random guy throwing a pétanque ball at you.
Oh my fucking god.
The Cybertruck is almost an army-like vehicle. Seeing it makes me think of the sovereign citizen movement. Have you ever heard about it? The sovereign citizen movement is made up of people who believe they are not bound by government laws, often claiming they can opt out of taxes, licenses, or other legal obligations. They typically rely on misunderstood or distorted interpretation of legal principles to justify their stance. And while some just want to challenge authority, others have been linked to more extreme, confrontational actions. So yeah, I can totally picture them driving one of those. In fact, Elon Musk himself regularly flirts with conspiracy theories, or embrace them, let's be honest, about the government, about the end of civilization, about an apocalypse. So for me, the Cybertruck is the physical manifestation of his ideology, individualism, authority, and the aesthetic of futurism. Okay, so we've done commodity, we've done safety. Now let's move on to the best part, I believe, intimacy. Let me start by reading you this little segment. Jaguar Type 00 is an example of Jaguar at its best, a fearless statement, an object of desire, a concept with bold forms and exuberant proportions to inspire future Jaguars, introducing an unmistakable, unexpected, and dramatic physical manifestation of Jaguar. Type 00 embodies Jaguar's creative philosophy of exuberant modernism, following the debut of its new brand identity. Whew, I'm getting hot. So this was written in the context of the release of the new Jaguar, an elegant cybertruck for the two genders. Type 00 is presented as an object of desire, and to be fair, connotations are quite common when we deal with cars. The design of a car can be super sensual. Certain features of it remind us of a human face, like the eyes or the mouth. For a long time, cars exposed in shows were accompanied by a model. It was meant to generate sex appeal and connect it to the car and what can be done with it. I'll tell you a personal anecdote. I remember that my teenage self and my tennis crush would often spend time in the car after the lesson, talking about life and listening to music. It was a secret space. We were protected from the outside world and people's judgment. It's hard to describe how having that private space made me feel, especially as a teenager, where you still kind of depend on your parents, you live with your parents technically. So yeah, it was very easy to romanticize the whole thing. And even though the relationship with the guy ended badly, I still think about those long conversations after tennis in the dark, in the car, as something very special, something hard to describe. Me and my crush were very lucky to live in the countryside. We could find intimate spaces quite easily. But that is clearly not the experience of people living in big cities, especially in overcrowded areas. Let me give you an example. In June 2023, working-class teenager Nael was killed by a police officer. There was a lot of discourse around this, and some sociologists explained that in low-income neighborhoods, it's quite common for entire families to live in small spaces with siblings, sharing the same bedrooms, and having people simultaneously cooking, working, and studying in the same space. That means it can be tough to find personal space. Now, taking that into account, the car can be that personal space to stay by yourself or invite friends or crush. Last year, I got the chance to see an exhibition by Mohamed Bouissa, and he created this really cool short film. It's a love story with the aesthetic of video games. It's about two people living in a low-income neighborhood. The girl is studying law, I believe, and the guy, it's unsure what he's doing, etc. And they are in the car, they are chatting and everything, and then the police arrives and they search him. They check his identity and everything. And that's where the aesthetic of the video game kind of enters. It's just both very aesthetically pleasing and very emotionally intense. And yeah, it shows how embarrassing it is to be searched, especially in front of your crush. How that experience of intimacy is very hard to find for certain people. For us, the car is a place where we can film podcasts, when we can film videos, because the light is good and it feels quite safe and intimate. But for other people, that is not even possible. By other people, I primarily mean young men in low-income neighborhoods, especially if you're Black or Arab, you're very likely to be checked. And even if you are sitting in your car doing nothing, that can be perceived as suspicious. So yeah, I think it's important to keep that into account as well. This is a very clear class disparity. It is similar to the experience of lockdown. You know, some people associated lockdown with growth and others with, you know, a nightmare. Okay, well, we covered a lot, haven't we, in quite a short amount of time. I'm aware of this, but, you know, it's such a vast topic. I can't cover everything, so I wanted to give little bits here and there. I hope it was interesting. Commodity, safety, intimacy. These are the 3 angles that I chose to show the meanings that we put onto cars and our relationship with them. Obviously, there are many other ways to approach this topic. But yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, to subscribe if it's not already done.
As you can tell, I'm a bit sick at the moment, but I wanted to say thank you to my Patreons and a special thank to top tier Patreons, James, Wolfcats, Sebastian, Patrick Button, Ivish Mohanmina, Gilan, Tayeb, Jeff Lee, Brandon, James Siddle, Ujwal, Pablo, Patrick, Boris, Ria, Donage, Manuel, Corrigi, Tristan, Ian, Christopher France, and Perry.
Now I need to talk to you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to grow your presence online. They give you a bunch of tools to create your ideal websites. So this is mine so far, Alice Cappell. I use it as a platform to kind of show all the work that I do on YouTube, my contributions, but also my book. I also added all my social media accounts. You also have analytical tools. You can run effective email campaigns. On their website, you can also get advice from professionals on how to build your website, etc. So many things you can do. So if you're interested in it, if you want to try it out, then go to squarespace.com to get a free trial. And once you're ready to go public, then you can go to squarespace.com/AliceCappell to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring the video and for sponsoring the channel throughout this year. I'll see you very soon. Salut!